Democratic strategist Kurt Bardella. See how much rage he has. He joins us now along with News Nation political contributor Lauren Wright. The economy's stupid again. Here we go, but with a little bit more rage. Kurt, is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think another phrase for it would be economic populism. It's a theme that we've seen over and over again, whether it's Bernie Sanders back in the couple presidential elections ago that he tapped into that vaulted him into kind of superstar status. We've seen Donald Trump harness that with the Make America Great Again, America First agenda. And now we're seeing it again play out here for Democrats, whether it was affordability in New York City from Adami, and what we're seeing right now unfold with just overall frustration with the economy and this disconnect between how Donald Trump talks about the economy and how people feel about the economy.
So there's two things here. There's one thing to say that Trump, and he has, Lauren, has fallen in the polls in terms of how people see his handling of the economy. He was always his strongest issue. Now he's underwater. Okay. Does not necessarily mean that this Democratic Party can take advantage of that and turn it into electoral success next year. It's not guaranteed just because Trump's struggling that they can just step in, is it?
I think that's right. And, you know, even though the president's proposals for lowering prices are not particularly conservative, he gets the temperature in the room, and he has turned on a dime on this affordability issue. He responds very, very rapidly when he sees Democrats succeed with a particular message. And I don't know if that's going to get him anywhere. But yes, this is the problem presidents have from both parties when they campaign on lower costs and then they can't deliver on them. Selectively, yes, he'll tout a few that are indeed cheaper, but it's very, very hard to link presidential actions to day-to-day changes in people's lives. And so he's getting punished for that, and he will be at the ballot box, I predict.
Pick up on the other issue that we mentioned right before the break, Lauren, and that's crime, because that had been another issue that the president had been able to take advantage of politically for a long, long time.
That's his best issue still, yeah.
You still think so, right. But then why, you know, never mind, I shouldn't even ask. We know this is what he does. I mean, he makes up numbers all the time, but he would say, no, there's been no murders in 6 months. There's been 61. Okay, so that's just Trump being Trump, you're saying. But on the issue of crime, Bowser not running again in D.C. was the story that we had. But on the issue of crime, you still think he's got one up, at least on the Dems?
Well, yes. In general, people trust Republicans on crime and immigration more than they trust Democrats. But as far as Trump goes, I'm really glad you pointed out those numbers. Why does he have to lie about them? I have no idea, because 6 murders is still a lot less than 25 murders. I mean, he should tout what he sees as a very impressive success, making Americans' lives safer without saying 0 murders. So I'm totally on board with that. And yes, he's going to keep rehashing this issue. People are wondering, why is he sending the National Guard into more cities? Why is he continuing these immigration raids? The implementation could be unpopular. It's because he's doing better on these issues than he is on the economy.
Well, I was thinking that's still, you're right, the economy is the big one, and he's gone down on that, Kurt. I do think there are challenges for this president in terms of immigration, to Lauren's point on enforcement, because that has been less popular, and that's been hurting him. But do you still see him with an advantage over Democrats on that issue, immigration, as well as crime more broadly?
I don't think it's the advantage that it was in 2024. I mean, part of the thing is the immigration enforcement aspect of this has hurt the economy, some could say. And certainly the electoral success that Republicans enjoyed with Latino voters in 2024, well, the immigration enforcement mechanism now is actually eroding that goodwill support that he had with those voters, who are now overwhelmingly against him in the majority of polls. And it's not an accident that when you look at all the public polling that's been done over the last 30 days, Donald Trump Republicans are hemorrhaging with independent voters big time. So, yeah, this stuff plays really well with the MAGA base. But as we have seen in election after election, the MAGA base doesn't decide the outcome of elections, especially midterm elections. It comes down to those voters that they needed in 24 that they're losing right now. And I tell you, going hard line on immigration and crime isn't going to get the job done. It's going to repel the voters they need.
You know, one other thing that is, I guess, related to this in many ways as well, Lauren, is are we going to see more of these resignations? Do you read into the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing? Like Axios had an article talking about the worst good-paying job in America with members of Congress. I guess, you know, Don Bacon, who was a guest of ours many, many times, was thinking about bowing out early. He's already retiring, but he was angry about the Russia-Ukraine proposal, the first one, 28 points, not 19, I guess. So he was thinking about bowing out early, and then, you know, Jared Golden's mentioned there as well. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, that was a big headline for a lot of people. And then I know, you know, people like Kevin McCarthy, I guess, are talking about more to come. How do you see it?
Well, we are in a very divisive era, and this is something political scientists have talked about for a long time. Is this a good job? Are there good people that you want representing you, selecting into these jobs? I mean, we complain, I think, I'm glad we complain about the
Yeah.
trading that goes on of individual stocks. That needs to stop. Every time Congress gives themselves a pay hike, people complain about that. But at a certain level, you do have to have the discussion of, are people running for office that are talented and would be going into other jobs because they perceive it as dangerous for them and their families? And there are countless, Kurt.
Right.
Kurt will tell you perks in Congress. You've got the gym, you've got transportation. You could, hopefully you don't have people selecting into these jobs someday that are so wealthy they can afford their own security and they already don't need
we
the
see
salary.
that in the Senate
That's not
already.
what
I
you
mean, there's a
want
lot
in a
of that.
representative democracy. But there
Yeah.
is a balancing act that I think it's sometimes hard for Americans to see because these threats are very real.
I mean, that's what you see a lot, I think, in the Senate. A lot of rich people, Kurt, who they don't need to worry about the money and maybe even the security. But you're right; those threats are real. So how do you balance out? We've had this discussion in the past about candidate quality and financial considerations that Lauren brought up. But this is it's not a new one, but it's bigger now than it was in recent years. I think it's fair to say security of members.
Yeah, it's also just it's a crappy job. I mean, it's a thankless job that requires you, even when times are quote good, the minute you get elected, you have to spend every waking moment
Raising
raising money
money,
to get
right?
reelected next time. Like that, it's a crappy job. Add to it now the security concerns. Add to it, you're going to get threats. You're going to get whether on every side of the ideological spectrum. You're going to be making people so happy. And you started this segment with the key word, and that's the word rage. And that's the problem that we have right now that has infected all of our politics. We have made it so that there is a profitability to weaponize and then monetize rage. And the other half of that is, well, you're chasing people who want to be in office, who want public service. But I'll tell you, $1.74 a year, which I know sounds like a lot of money, it's way more than the average American family makes in this country. But $174,000 a year is not enough to live with the potential fear of your livelihood, your kids, your family having to
No.
deal with the nonsense that comes with public office
Well,
right
there might
now.
not be a number that's enough to deal with that, but it's definitely not. And then that's a larger point. A lot of these people are, lawyers and different types of, in private practice. In other words, they can make far more working in a private equity firm or whatever they
Yes.
want to do, or in media, or whatever it may be, than that. So then where do we end up, Lauren, with lower
That's what I was
level
going to
people?
say is you actually do end up in a very frightening place with radical ideologues running that are willing to take all these risks. I
Right.
hope that's not the place we get to, but we are seeing this trend where we're swinging between radical Democrat, radical Republican, and nobody's getting the best form of representation. The silver lining to that, if there is any, is behind the scenes, congressional members do actually work together in a bipartisan manner quite often, and they communicate much more than they portray in public. But yeah, there's a lot of problems and there's a lot to be concerned about.
Well, I've been thinking about it myself that we're almost going in that direction slowly but surely, maybe not that slowly. I just give you like an anecdotal example, not to pick on Marjorie Taylor Greene, Kurt, but she was not seen as a mainstream member of Congress, not just her, but there were other people like that that wouldn't be booked on news shows as much. And then, that the fringe becomes the mainstream. Was it because she went after Trump? Probably. She ended up getting other news bookings because of that. But I think there's other people like her in the Congress. By the way, on both sides of the political spectrum, that 5-6 years ago, you said, oh, no, we're not going to talk to this person. Now they're kind of the spokespeople for the parties in some ways, sometimes.
Well, interesting that Marjorie has become, I hesitate to use the word victim, but a victim of the very cycle that she helped prop up and expand and oftentimes exploited to her benefit. And now she's on the other side of it and it's literally run her out of town.
Yeah,
And she really has only herself to blame. Like no one was more venomous and more divisive
that's true.
and more deliberate about it than Marjorie Taylor Greene. I have zero sympathy for her just because I might happen to agree with her this time. The problem is we have this permission structure where if you're okay with what she did before, then you got to be okay with it happening to her as well. And that's why, again, I said earlier, like the entire structure and the entire cost benefit is out of whack right now, and we're rewarding the wrong behaviors.
See?
But it's not just on one side, Kurt. I will say, a lot of the
No.
hatred she's getting is not just in the recent weeks where she's been critical of Trump from the right. She's had it from the left for a very long time, and it's really scary stuff.
All right.
No,
Thank
I agree.
you,
I agree
Lauren.
that
Yep.
people on both sides of it are very extreme, and that's been an escalation. I will say though, I believe one party is more guilty of it than the other.
All right, it's
I
not
disagree with
necessarily
that.
50-50,
Okay.
but you think it's both. Yeah, but this is a reasonable discussion. That's what we have. So you two should run, but you never will.
I'll vote
because
for
they just
Dr.
said it
Wright
was.
anytime. If she's on
Two
the ballot, she's
reasonable
got my
people.
vote.
Yes,
But
likewise.
Kurt said, he said, forget it. I'm making too much. This is a crappy job. That's what he just said before. Thank you, guys. It is Kurt Bardella, Lauren Wright.